Guys, I am so excited. I want more people to join so I can show off the locket based around my Dario equals Euron theory. Guys, I'm so... Oh, there's Tyrion.
We got Tyrion.
Hello. And now we are just waiting on... Is Chelsea still joining?
I believe so.
Okay.
Greetings from America, all the way from Madrid. Ugh,
Hi.
Madrid, wow. I can't look it up right now. What time is it in Spain right now?
I think it might be like 5, 6 o'clock. Do you have
Sounds
any
about right.
requests for the movie in the background?
Ooh, something pirate related.
Yes.
Should I do Pirates of the Caribbean?
I mean, obviously.
Yeah, the original. That's a good one.
Okay.
Although I don't. It's so, to kind of start on the topic for today, because I was listening to a lot of the Ironborn chapters in prep for this. It really seems like George was just having way too much fun writing about pirates.
Honestly, that is why I love the Ironborn chapters. I hear so many people talk about how, oh my gosh, the Greyjoys are horrible. And I mean, I would argue that Asha is not horrible. And Theon is currently, Theon is one of those examples of what punishment is deemed enough. Like, how much are you going to punish someone before you say, okay, I think they've served their time. I think that they've been punished enough. And I feel like anyone who skips out on Theon's chapters or doesn't really focus on the development of his character, you're missing out not only on Theon and his development and his growth, but also you're missing a huge chunk of the books as a major POV character. I mean, you're not getting the entire context of A Song of Ice and Fire. Why are you even reading it?
It's even on a reread, I know that's a thing that's common in this fandom is people skipping the chapters they don't like, or skipping the chapters. Like, there's still, like, even for me, even the chapters that I think waste a lot of time, I don't want to skip them. And I'm talking about like Jon chapters, I'm talking about Tyrion chapters, even some Dany chapters where just like not a whole lot of plot is happening. They're still interesting in their own way. And especially with Theon Clash chapters, I don't understand how people skip that, because like that's crazy plot that's happening. Sorry, one sec.
I mean, is Theon a young, misogynistic piece of crap in the beginning? Yes. I mean, he absolutely is. But I think that his chapters are still worth reading because he thinks like most Westerosi lords, especially younger ones, think. I mean, most of them are not like Robb. Most of them think like Theon. So you're kind of getting an insight into what most of the young lords or young lordlings of Westeros, how they think and how they operate, is pretty much Theon. And his character arc and his development throughout the series as, you know, going from being Theon to Reek to being the ghost in Winterfell to actually recognizing himself as Theon again and what he has to go through to save Jane Westerling. These are amazing chapters, very well written, very insightful. And I personally can't wait to see where Theon's character goes in Winds of Winter. I'm excited to see how that grows and develops in the future. And as for anyone else, like Victarion and Aeron and Asha, I love these chapters, especially Asha's chapters where she's captured by Stannis and he's on this relentless march to Winterfell, even though people are dropping like flies. I mean, there's so much insight into who Stannis is. I mean, that you don't get from Davos's chapters because Davos left Stannis at this point, and Stannis is like crashing and burning in his relentless effort to become king. And you see at that point, what you've already kind of figured out from Davos's chapters is that Stannis is in this for himself and not in it for his beauty.
I'm having technical difficulties.
Well, the thing that I love about that I was getting into was this weird relationship that he has with Rob, because Rob is kind of, he takes on like an older brother figure to Theon, even though he's like, I think 4 or 3 years younger than him. And then there's also like how he feels drawn to the family of the Starks. Even though he did always have in the back of his head, he's different. And and at a certain point, if his father did rebel, like he was going to get executed. So it's like he grew up with that, and then coming home to what he come home to, and that was great. Which, this was one thing that I was remembering when going through his chapters again, was how they changed the character between Aaron and Asha, who they called Yara. It's dumb. But it's just one of those like it's one of those like show changes that I'm like, the show logic sort of made some sense, but they did not think about the character implications for this, because it's like, on one hand, yes, if you don't know you're going to have Aeron Greyjoy, or if you're not sure, then yeah, fold that scene into another character that we are going to have, Asha. But then you write it to be this weird, creepy thing that kind of colors Theon's character like even worse than he was in the book. Because he wasn't a great guy in the book. I mean, look what he did to the fucking the ship captain's daughter, how he used and abused her. But he somehow made it worse by adding an incestual angle to everything.
Yeah.
Hi.
Okay, now we've got 15 people in the chat. I really want to show off my locket. I have only been taking this locket off for showers and running. That is how attached to it I am. I'm obsessed. Okay, this is Dario for Huron. So before anybody gets too excited, this was made specifically for me, and you can't have it.
Yeah, it's true.
You can't have
it. Hi, Bayla.
So look at everything going on. You can see the lace, the crow's feather for the crow's eye and the storm crows. The blue representing not only Dario's hair, but Euron's lips. Both of them have blue eyes because it's the same person. The lace for Dario, the gold, because they're both kind of obsessed with treasure and gold. And
Dario's gold tooth. It's his gold tooth.
Let us not forget the gemstones, which is right there, the blue gemstone.
Yeah. Honestly, I love that locket. It turned out really pretty.
I get so many compliments on it, and I'm like, you can't have it.
You can't have it. This is a one-off.
It's mine.
I think that mine are in the mail.
They are.
Oh, and hold on. I want to show off Cersei, too, because even though I'm going to do a video for Cersei, I still want everybody to see it.
Mad Queen Cersei. I told you guys what happened. Yeah, I did. I made the Helena with the dragonfly wings. And at first the girl was like, oh, I love it. And then she was like, I want a moth. And I was like, you know what? That's fine, because I'm keeping the dragonfly wing one. I like it.
Okay, so this is Mad Queen Cersei. And as you guys know, I've had a lot of discussion recently on my page about Cersei, because apparently you can't have empathy and sympathy for someone, even though they've been through a lot of things. I mean, I acknowledge that Cersei is a bad person, but I never really understand why people don't realize that she went through trauma. And
like, she's a complex villain. She's still a villain, but she's complex. Like, people act like they want complicated characters, and then you get them and they're like, ugh.
What I hate about that is just like, you can say it over and over and over again. She's a bad person. She's this, she's that, or whatever. And the minute you say anything that's like mildly understanding of her like situation, or even looking at her in a different lens, like people think you're trying to like sanitize her. And it's like, we can't have discussions anymore, it feels like.
No, I'm not. I am in no way trying to. And the thing is I feel like people didn't listen to the sound that I used and what that creator was trying to say. It was me saying that Cersei is toxic. She is a toxic, horrible human being. The problem is that women cannot be toxic in our society or in Westeros, because they are condemned for it. They are shamed for it. Whereas characters like Robert Baratheon, who are very toxic, abusive, and also a rapist, are praised as Bobby B, that guy. We love Robert Baratheon. Oh my gosh. And it's like, but he is a horrible person, and arguably more horrible than Cersei, seeing as a lot of the things that she's doing are the things that were done to her by Robert.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like Cersei is, and I don't know. It's like very clear. There's very clear distinction, or not distinction. There's very clear similarities between Cersei and Robert. I mean, she literally tells Sansa, like, drink, your queen commands it, which is literally out of Robert's mouth in the first book.
Yeah, well, and I mean, Ashley, what people don't get, and this happens a lot, is like the sound that you used is talking about like social structure. It's talking about like a macro scale. It's saying, yes, on an individual level, women can be toxic, but it's saying that the system will not uphold their toxicity. Like Cersei's time in power is limited, whereas a male ruler can be incredibly toxic, and that will not limit how long they are in a position of power.
Well, yeah,
but like that's so Ashley, that sound you used is like it went above like fucking 80% of people's heads.
And that's crazy to me, because it's like, how do you not see where this is a problem, where this is an issue? Because it seems like characters like Cersei are demonized for their toxicity. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be. What she is doing is evil. But what Robert did as well is also evil. I mean, people always want to gloss over the fact that the young girl who he got pregnant in that brothel was a child.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to talk about that.
I mean, Ned realized it, Ned saw it, and he was disgusted by it.
I mean, and literally, we talk about this, but a lot of people don't talk about like the way that Robert celebrated the death of those children.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is something that I will never be able to get out of my mind, is that this man was so happy that a baby, an infant, and a little girl were brutalized, and a woman, an innocent woman, was great in his name.
Yeah, I mean, that it was enough that Ned was like, I don't want to see you for a fucking decade. Like, that's saying something, but people don't want to talk about that.
No. But I want to get back to the locket just really, really quick. Really quick. So you have Lannister gold, the Lannister gold pieces. You have the green sea glass for her wildfire eyes. We have the red, obviously, for Lannister red, and the flowers. So, and then the back is just that simple red backing. But
yeah, you needed some flowers because, like Cersei, she is a girly girl.
She's beautiful. Honestly, she's beautiful. She's regal. She's crazy, but no one can say that she's not a beautiful woman. So it's honestly one that I am extremely happy with. I just
Ellen. Sorry, Ashley. In the chat, they said, "Do you know there's theories that Ned is Dany's dad?" Oh, do we?
Oh yeah.
Oh, do we?
Everybody is Daenerys' father. Rhaegar,
he thinks about Daenerys more than he thinks about Jon.
He does. And okay, so it's funny that we're talking about this. I don't think that Ned is her father, but I have this like headcanon, and I haven't really thought much about the timeline, so I don't know how well this headcanon checks out, but that somehow Ned was involved or helped facilitated Daenerys' escape. Like, he was really fucking committed to keeping her safe as much as he could. And I want to know why.
Starfall, baby.
What was his investment? I can't think about that shit too hard because it goes against every analytical structure I've ever made about this series. I can't do it.
It's true. And the only reason it can exist is because Robert's Rebellion is a black hole of like no information.
Yeah.
I have no idea how anything happened. Like, you can't even guess at like how many months were in between battles, how long people were walking.
But like, Chelsea, how mad would it make the Snow Bros that you could say, "Ha-ha, she's ice and fire"?
Yeah. Oh my God, they die. They die, man. They just like, I think their hearts would explode. They should be like.
And that's central to like the Starfall baby swap thing, is that they're both like technically ice fire babies. You know, we got the Danes and the Starks, and then the Targaryens and the Starks.
Well, yeah, but the way that people like, it's not a common association, the Danes and fire. Like, you have to reach for that one because it means, it means taking them back to the Great Empire of the Dawn.
It only makes sense if you, after, what is it, 2014? That's when World comes out, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is where all the Great Empire of the Dawn stuff was originally written, I think.
Well,
Or finally
Chelsea,
set
I
down.
really like your theory, Chelsea, that Brandon was the one who deflowered.
Ashara. Yeah, I definitely
Sorry,
think.
I was
I
blanking
think.
for a second. I think that that's far more likely just from what we learn from Lady Barbary Dustin and what she tells Theon. That seems like right up Brandon's alley.
Oh yeah, he's a fuckboy, and like the whole. It's just and it's 100% a vibe. It's just like the vibe I get from Brandon, and like what Barristan said and what Lady Barbary said. Like just kind of putting that all together in context. Brandon seems like the one who would have, dived and dashed, so to speak.
I have to disagree.
I don't see Ned doing
subscribe
that.
to Ned and Ashara equals John.
Okay, so here's the thing. I know, like, in my heart of hearts that it is Rhaegar and Lyanna. Like, it's so there, and it would be weird to change it now in the final hour, but I do find Ned and Ashara very compelling. Like, I think that it could also be a really good story that way.
Which, like, for me, like, Ned and Ashara, I think could work, but, like, the more Gurm thing to me would be Brandon and Ashara.
Brandon and Ashara. Yeah, you're right.
Now Ned has to take care of his brother's kid after he was shitty to a woman he really loved, who didn't love him back.
George loves
Same
that.
way.
Yeah, George loves those love triangle things.
Yeah, and what was I? Oh, never mind. I lost my train of thought.
Damn, we were doing
There's
Brandon
so
and
much
Ashara.
going on.
Starfall baby, swap. Yeah, that's such a good point, Essa. He kept Lyanna's secret to his death. Like, he would definitely take the fall for his brother.
Oh, what I was going to say is that R plus L equals J, because it was, we have that story about D&D and Gurm and the test, and then that it's in the show. I guess it's canon. The problem that I have with it now is that R plus L equals J does not have a part for Ashara Dane to play.
No.
Like, I don't know what she's, like, why, unless it's purely just a misdirect, in which case I think it would be a little cheap, but yeah, so it's just one of those, like, it's always there, even though we have so much confirmation. It's like, is it really Rhaegar and Lyanna?
I don't want to be.
I think that it is. I think it's Rhaegar and Lyanna. But I also think that we've been sitting with these books for so long that it's fun to toss around this stuff. Like, Varys is a merman. I mean, it's fun to gather evidence and justify why that could be possibly true.
And Roose is a vampire.
So
I mean, listen, that one is not too far-fetched. It's not. And the idea that he's changing skins over the years, and that's why he's so unbothered by Ramsay's behavior, because he's going to take Ramsay's skin.
He's going to be Ramsay. He's going to become Ramsay. What?
He's gonna be Ramsay.
That would make him Ramsay, or excuse me, he could become Reek number like 52. How many Reeks are there now? 4?
Good grief. I mean,
Okay, before we move on, I want to say one thing about why John being Rhaegar and Lyanna, why that works for me. And it, of course, it all comes back to Dany. Because I need that irony that Rhaegar saw Dany, assumed she was his future Visenya, and set out with Lyanna to have a girl and got John instead. Like, I need that. I need that.
Farah, if only Sir Barristan Selmy would spill the damn secrets he's been keeping under the disguise.
For real.
Yeah, I wish these characters would just please have a full thought in your head, please, because other people are reading your thoughts right now.
I need Barristan Selmy and Howland Reed just to spill the beans and Winds of
Tell me
Winter.
everything. Spill the tea, bitches.
Well, George has said, and this is like what also drives me crazy about why we don't have Winds of Winter. He has said that we are going to know everything we need to know about Robert's rebellion in Winds of Winter. And I'm like, okay, that's wonderful. Can we have it now, please?
Yeah, stop edging me and give it to me, you fucking old man.
Stop giving us so many fucking crumbs, man.
He says things like that, and then I launch myself into more self-torture.
Does Ashara and Brandon parallel Peter?
Ooh,
Ooh.
well, there's a lot of, like, Bale the Bard stuff happening with Brandon and Ashara, because presumably if B plus A equals J was true, it happened when Brandon was in the Black Cells. So when he's in King's Landing and Ashara's in King's Landing. So there's shit about that happening in the crypts and stuff like that as well. But then, there's Bael the Bard stuff going on with Baelish and Sansa right now too, if you want to read that closely into it.
Interesting. I have to think about that for a minute.
I was so excited when I saw the calendar for this year and saw Bael the Bard in there. I was like, oh my gosh, we're getting all of these little blue rose hints. It's happening. It's happening.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
I do think Howland is alive.
Howland is alive.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely alive. He's just hiding because he knows too much.
He knows too much. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he would just show up dead. I feel like we would have a hint he's dead, or we would hear of stuff that he's doing. The fact that we don't hear anything really about him is like, that's the George thing. It's like when he starts hiding details, something's coming up. Like why can't you write all the details about Ashai in the world of Ice and Fire?
Oh, that's a good question, TJ. Who is Howland's wife? So
I forget his name.
I'd have to look that up. I really
do
would.
we know? Do they ever? I don't feel it. Do they talk about her?
I don't know that it ever said specifically. Do they?
No, I'd have to look it up.
I'd have to look it up.
But yeah, I don't know. I can't think of that.
Ellen and Nessa, y'all are having a convo in here. I just wanted to say about the eye color thing. I see what you're saying, Ellen. If she had purple eyes, it would be mentioned. We do have other parts of the text where like purple eyes are seen as like deep blue or sometimes black. Specifically egg. Like Dunk doesn't realize
eggs like the color of sapphires.
Yeah, Dunk doesn't realize Egg is a Targaryen the first time he sees him because he just doesn't think of purple eyes. Obviously once he knows them, he sees them as purple, but it's just one of those like George definitely plays with that of like whether or not characters notice eye colors as well.
And it's like young Griff.
Some have darker purple color, whereas Dany's eyes are called the color of amethyst. So her eyes are very obviously purple, where you have some characters who have darker, like much darker purple eyes, like a sapphire color. And that's Daemon Blackfyre II. That's why he's able to get away with the fiddler disguise, because his eyes are that deep sapphire color. And Dunk doesn't notice that they're actually purple.
He specifically doesn't notice until he puts purple on.
Yeah, I was going to say young
like,
Griff. That's why they do his hair blue, is because it makes his eyes look more blue than purple.
Didn't Tyrion say that he noticed just right off the bat? Like
that's because Tyrion, of all the things that I hate about him, I love that he is so observant.
Bro is observant as fuck, that's for sure.
Yeah. And he calls it like he sees it. The whole thing with young Griff, him liking him at first and thinking that he was a good kid. I mean, he risked his life to save young Griff.
And then all the baiting with the Savas.
Yeah, no, I love that fucking scene.
That was his way of testing him to see if he was more like Daenerys or more like Joffrey. And unfortunately, young Griff is leaning more towards the Joffrey. I don't think he's as cruel as Joffrey, but I think that he and Rhaegal have a lot in common.
I think he's entitled and he's got a temper. So Nessa, she answered Howland's wife. Her name is Jayana, Jyana, but we don't have like her last name. We don't know what house she's from.
That's true, Ellen. Because I forget that Tyrion he clocked Griff's eye color pretty quickly. But I'm always open to like Septa Lemore being Ashara. I just wonder maybe it's just one of those pieces that like I'm still not quite convinced of the story part of it. Like it would fit, I think, like a Lego piece, but like I don't quite see it yet. But I'm not totally unconvinced of it yet.
I mean, I'm pretty committed to Ashara being the falling star of Starfall.
Oh yeah.
Which to me, I when I go into this, it's like time traveling brand. Central to that is like falling and like sensory deprivation, like activating magic. So it's like if she fell, then did she become Quaithe? Like that's another thing that I think about.
Quaithe the Shiera, you stop that.
No, Quain has to be Shira because it has to be the two star-crossed lovers trying to figure out the whole thing with Azor Ahai and coming together.
And her being right and him being wrong. I need that.
Yeah.
Haley asked, do Lyseni people have purple eyes or is it just white hair? I think it's both.
I think purple eyes are pretty much everywhere because you have to remember that Aerion Brightflame spent a lot of time in Lys because he was banished there after everything that happened. I don't want to do too many. Well, I mean, I guess we are kind of doing spoilers here, but just spoilers ahead for people who have not read Duncan. Well, Chelsea hasn't, so I'm not going to say. But after everything that happens in the Hedge Knight, we know that Aerion is banished to Lys for his misdeeds, and I cannot imagine that he didn't spread himself around.
Yeah. All right, I looked it up in Dance. Dance. This says Howland Reed, Lord of Greywater Watch, a Craigle man, his wife Diana of the Craigle men. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Nessa.
But we need Chelsea to read A Night of the Seven.
I know.
Also, the other thing about Ashara and like why it's like, you know, she doesn't have a part in R plus L equals J. Maybe the Danes are a dead end for George. Like maybe
That's what I'm saying.
A plan
Everyone wants them to be something.
It's different now.
Stop trying to make the Danes happen. They're not going to fucking happen.
I think the main thing with the Danes
to happen.
I like the mystery of it. That works for me. I need them to be like the mysterious final, like the bygone era of like the Dream Knight and the fucking Sword of the Morning and all that shit. Like, because it's all a fucking fallacy. None of that shit is real. That's the whole point of this story.
It's like that video that I posted the other day about Cersei. If people watched it to the very end, where the creator talks about silence is violence, that's why I used the picture of Rhaella and Aerys's entire Kingsguard, except Jaime. I did give Jaime his flowers, but all of those members of his Kingsguard were guilty and are part of that silence is violence. You are attributing to violence against women if you are not saying anything about it. So telling Jaime to shut up because they can't protect her from Aerys, that is contributing to violence against women. So
and I'm looking at you, Barristan, and Arthur Dane. I'm looking at you.
All of those men contributed to that.
You hear stuff about Arthur Dane being like this cool dude who like he let the Smiling Knight get another weapon so that he didn't kill him while he was unarmed or whatever. Like he just like he did that for a guy that he was about to kill, but he did nothing to protect, you know, the queen. It's like
the only person who spoke up for her was a young teenage boy, and he was told to shut up.
And then Jaime, I think I forget what the exact quote. I need to remember the quote because it's a good quote. But he says something like, was it really that cool back then, or was it just like youth? You know?
Yes, I remember. I actually recently, because you know, I was rereading Jaime and Cersei's chapters for funsies. For funsies, because they are just such an interesting read. But it's just very sad to listen to Jaime think about those things because he had this whole idolization of that world when he was young, and he realizes now as an adult that none of it was really real. It was all just a young boy's dreams coming true, and he never really understood it at the time. But
Jaime's such a good character, man.
None of these men were actually good people, because if they were good people, they would have spoken up for Rhaella like he did.
Yeah, it's true.
So
I agree with that. I think too, going back to House Dane and, you know, them being kind of like this in-world example of like, if that were real, you know, being an honorable knight, all that kind of stuff, like they're kind of the pinnacle of it. To then have them come from the Bloodstone Emperor's line is just like, another thing that like, I need it. Look at
Darkstar.
The Amethyst Empress.
The artwork of Darkstar and the Bloodstone Emperor, they look like the same person.
Like, I'm sorry, like a falling star and the Bloodstone Emperor worshipped a fallen star, like, and that's how he, like, and he forged a fucking sword from it. Like, of course he did.
I'll argue with you all about Darkstar. I think he's a good guy.
Oh, you stop it.
He's misrepresented.
I think look. Duran is the one that's telling you Darkstar got Marcella. Are we really going to trust Duran Does he know?
Exactly. See, that's what I'm saying. And Darkstar can't be guilty because he's kind of.
Yeah, but we'll see what George has planned for the Dorne story. It would be cool if he could pull it off. But yeah, the Dane, like, man, I just.
I think some things in George's story are just going to be left to mystery. It's kind of like that whole thing that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago about whether or not Oberyn Martell poisoned Tywin. Like, it does very much look like that's what happened, but you're going to have to figure that out for yourself. So I don't think we're ever going to get any definitive answer on that. I think it's just left up to the reader to interpret what that all means. Just kind of like with the Danes, there's never going to be really any further elaboration on them. It's just what it is.
Someone in the comments asked, do you believe that this will mean Jaime, is going to change in the show he returns to Cersei? Yeah, he's not abandoning his fucking perfect redemption arc. That's not happening.
He's not going back to Cersei. If anything, he will go back to Cersei to fulfill the Valonqar prophecy.
I mean, at this point, where we were left off at, he leaves Cersei on red. He opens the scroll. He sees her pleas for help. He's like, fuck that, and throws it in the fire.
Yeah, for real. He's that gif of Ron.
He leaves her on red. Like, no person whatsoever. So, and I think she deserves it because, she's been messing around with everybody, man.
Lancel, Moonboy.
Lancel, Osmond Kettleblack, and Moonboy, for all we know.
For real, though.
For real. Captured.
Okay, so... No, I'm not going to put my camera on. I don't want to. Make it.
Oh. Let's see.
Metaphorical with the smell. Definitely there's a metaphor level to it, but then obviously we like the
bro was poisoned.
The tinfoil theory that he was poisoned, which
is it tinfoil? Is it tinfoil? It's got legs. Yeah. Tinfoil can't have legs.
He was poisoned.
We'll see, because it.
It's not even debatable.
Because I don't see where the story goes from there without folding in a ton of for Oberyn to have poisoned Tywin, to me, Qyburn also has to be a Dornish agent, for the story to go
but let's think about it. Pycelle mentions several poisons that were in his stores, but he only describes two: the Strangler and Widow's Blood, and he tells you exactly how only those two poisons work. We know how the Strangler works because we saw how Joffrey passed. And then Widow's Blood stops a man's bowels and bladder until he drowns in his own poisons.
Ew.
What is happening with Tywin?
That's foul, man.
It's got to be such a sucky way to go out.
Tywin did not have coffee that morning.
The stink coming off Tywin's corpse. Even, everybody, even Pycelle is like, this doesn't make any sense. This is happening entirely too quickly. It's because he was on Widow's Blood. And this is not something, I just don't put it past Oberyn, because Oberyn doesn't want Tywin to just die. That's not the point. The point is to make this man suffer for as long as possible. And think about how awful of a way that is to die.
It's so bad.
That is the worst way anyone can die, is going down like that. So the irony of it all, that Tyrion did not even have to take Tywin out. Tywin was actively going to begin with. And Tywin looked sickly. He looked terrible. And then the way Oberyn looks Tyrion dead in his face and says, your father may not be alive for very long. And Tyrion thinks to himself, as Oberyn is saying that, the hairs on his arms are standing up, because he was like, the way that he said it.
TJ, if he was poisoned, I wonder how we would get confirmation. So, I like about Oberyn poisoning Tywin is that the whole gambit was that Oberyn wanted to fight the Mountain over Tywin's murder. So he would have been caught. He poisoned Tywin, and then essentially Joffrey getting got by Olenna and Littlefinger's ploy put Tyrion in that position. So it's the plan kind of got changed. But I think that's what was going on, is that Oberyn poisoned Tywin with the specific goal of vengeance.
Yeah,
In that way, he kills Tywin, and then he gets to kill the Mountain right after.
Yeah,
Right
I
after.
think after he would have killed Gregor, I don't think the plan was to stay in King's Landing for much longer, because obviously at that point, Tywin was going to be not so long for this world. I mean, we see that he was actively struggling on the privy. So I don't think that Oberyn was just going to hang out after that.
I also, something I think about a lot is people expect that we'll get like very explicit confirmations of different things. And I don't think we will. I think a lot of this will be left in the ether, and you just kind of have to decide for yourself. Like,
I don't think that George writes that way. He's just...
it's like people who are like, well, we haven't gotten confirmation of who Azor Ahai is. Do you think that George is going to break the fourth wall, look you dead in the face, and be like, Jon is Azor Ahai? Like, that's not how this works.
It's not going to look like that. No, I'm saying they really want him to write in Winds of Winter, Daenerys is Azor Ahai, or Jon is Azor Ahai, because that's terrible writing. Why would anyone want that?
George doesn't write to dumb readers.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't figure it out for yourself, the fact of the matter is that Pycelle only describing 2 poisons. What Oberyn says to Tyrion, how Tywin was actively struggling, and at the end, after he's already gone, his body decomposing the way that it did, and the smell coming off him because he was literally drowning in his own poisons.
Maybe the prince that was promised were the friends we made along the way.
The thing about trying to predict the ending for me is that a lot of people who are trying to, sorry if this offends you at all, but they are just terribly uncreative. And there's a reason that George is writing this series, because like everybody at the end of Storm, if you go back and look at the forums, everybody's talking about at the end of Storm, like, what's Jon going to do? What's Arya going to do? All these main characters are going to do. Nobody could have predicted Quentin. Nobody could have predicted the Ironborn. Nobody could have predicted any of those stories, because that's how George's brain works. So it's like, I really hate how like people look at this story where he's deconstructing things like knighthood and hero stories and myths and legends and think he's just going to write the whole thing all over again.
Right.
With Jon being the hero.
Ellen, Jaime's the most honorable knight in the story. I would say that it's Jaime and Brienne who are kind of rewriting what it means to be a knight. And like Eric just said, breaking all of that down and deconstructing it. I think that we have to look at the right thing, the honorable thing, and the necessary thing. Most well represented by Baelor Breakspear with the right thing, Maekar Targaryen with the honorable thing, and Bloodraven Brinken Rivers with the necessary thing. And we have to figure out how to combine all of those and constantly try to do the right thing. Like try to consistently stay with that while also being necessary enough. Also questioning what is honor and what is it costing these people.
Yep.
Maekar realizes this in the Hedge Knight. What did honor cost me? Honor cost me my brother. So
I mean, look at Ned.
Worth it.
Look at fucking Ned.
He gets to be the George Bush of that world.
Is it? And Maekar, this is the reason why Maekar, people always wonder why, if he hated Bloodraven so much, why did he keep him as Hand of the King? Because he knew that Bloodraven was going to always do the necessary thing. And he didn't want his own, Maekar didn't want his own personal choices to get in his way again, because it already cost him Baelor. He didn't
I'll read the books. God. I want to know. I don't know what you're talking about. So I'm like, what? Who did what?
Do you know how many Daenerys Easter eggs are in?
See, that's how you motivate me. There we go. Make it about Dany.
I need you to read it. Like, there are so many Dany Easter eggs.
Dany,
Although you're going to be texting us in the group chat. Like,
yeah, I need you to tell me that.
Look at this. Oh my gosh, look at this. That's Dany. And I'm like,
You're telling
I'm
me
waiting for you to do it.
there are parts of the series that aren't about Dany. Get out of here.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I don't know that. I don't know her. And I only know Dany.
But there are some Daenerys Easter eggs in there, like especially when Dunk is talking about Daemon's predictions or his visions, and he's like, and you also had a vision of dragons hatching from stone. One is more likely than the other, and it's like,
LOL.
but that is gonna happen.
I love a good he moment. Those are honestly some of my favorite parts of the main series are the he moments when Melisandre's talking to and about Stannis, but everything she's saying is Dany, and you're just like, oh, bitch. Oh, you dumb. You dummy.
I love when George can throw in a cheeky line, like when he has Maynard Plum respond to the question, like, well, maybe everybody's, a bastard child of Aegon the Fourth.
I mean, I probably am. Aren't you?
Yes. I mean, I'm a bastard already, so like Aegon the Fourth is probably my dad.
For real.
Yeah, I wasn't born out of wedlock, but I was conceived out of wedlock. Does that count?
That's a technicality.
Okay.
But I mean, in all honesty, too, when you read Aegon the Fifth, the way he talks is so much like Daenerys, and you're like, man, the apple did not. I mean, it just kind of tumbled out of that tree, barely.
I do love that. And I mean, I like the implication, that he thought it was him because he's bald, and how many bald Targaryens are there, but it was our girl Dany the whole time. Man, I about died when House of the Dragon, when that scene of Dany and Daemon's vision got leaked. I was so excited because I only saw it briefly, and I had myself absolutely convinced that they had her bald. And I remember like texting you guys and being like, she's fucking bald! No, she wasn't.
I remember that. It was like 8 minutes where we lived in heaven.
I really wish they had just made her bald. that would have made A Night of the Seven Kingdoms and Egg being bald make entire like.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Give me that bald girl.
And you'll like it too, Chelsea, because you see Egg, who starts out as this royal who's used to this certain lifestyle. And actually, Dunk and Maekar have a conversation after Baelor's death, where Maekar's like, okay, come back to Summerhold. I'll train you up. Like, you can learn how to be a better knight. And Egg can serve as your squire. And Dunk's like, no, I will only agree to Egg being my squire if you allow me to take him on the road with me and serve as a hedge knight. Will serve different lords, and he'll learn what it is to serve an actual knight, serve a hedge knight, not just serve.
And he'll see the country he's meant to rule, for crying out loud.
I love that scene because he owns Maekar by his own logic. He's like, "What are you talking about? You don't even know how to hold a sword properly." And he's like, "I bet Aerion didn't sleep in a ditch."
Yeah, and then he's like,
"I bet Daeron didn't eat salt beef." And Maekar's just gotta like stand there and take it.
Yeah, and Maekar, when he says those things to Maekar literally looks at him, does not say a word. And then he walks out.
Right. He just walks away.
Because what can he say? What can he say? Because Dunk is not wrong. And then you see Egg with each story and how each story progresses, him becoming more and more humble and less a prince.
Egg
is such a good man when he grows up. That is why he is such a humble king. Because he was raised by a humble, good man.
It's interesting because I see parallels in that with and like inverse parallels with Viserys, Dany's brother, and young Griff, right? Because like Varys and Illyrio had hopes that being, in exile and living in secrecy would humble young Griff, and I don't feel like it's had that effect at all.
No,
I feel like he's just as entitled because it's like you still have been raising him, telling him that this is his birthright, right? That he is entitled to this. Like he still has that fucking mentality.
He still had the education. He had the education of a prince.
Yeah.
He had maybe not the lifestyle of a prince, but still probably the lifestyle of a reasonably wealthy lord.
Right.
I mean, he's not really had to struggle a day in his life.
And then it's like Viserys, he did, but he went the opposite way with it. It didn't humble him. Well, I mean, it did, but not in like a self-reflective way. It made him bitter and cruel. Yeah. And, I think that's a really interesting parallel. And I think that that would be fun to read. I mean, okay, to be perfectly fucking clear, it's not a lack of wanting to read Dunk and Egg. It's just, I've been stuck in the reread of the mains. Don't you do that. You get out of here. Yeah, oh, Nessa, don't even get me started on Viserys. Like, the tragedy of that fucking character, the implications. Like, Viserys is the epitome of like a doomed, tragic character. All that could have been. Like,
well, if you dislike Viserys, listen, or I mean, you can at least have some sympathy for Viserys. Whereas Aerion Brightflame, you're just gonna want to. You're gonna want
exactly.
And what amazes me is trying to look up Daemon Blackfire smut fix on AO3, and the only things that come up are Aerion Brightflame. And
you're like, why? Why?
Like, I looked this stuff up, and unfortunately, I came across Maegor orgy fix, and I'm just like, why?
Not the Maegor orgy fix. Oh my god!
Well, he did have how many wives?
What?
Jesus.
And it's so. But I didn't even bother reading it because I saw the explicit rating and all the pairings in there, and I was like, you know what?
I don't think I need this one.
There are some roads that I
won't go
travel. I don't need to travel them. I don't need to know about them. Like,
Nessa, please do write a thesis on Viserys. I would read the fuck out of it.
Just leave that book shut.
Yeah,
does not need to be open.
I'm just gonna stick in the world of Hermione until Dunk and Egg comes out, and then I'm hoping that we do get some Daemon Blackfire smut fix. Hoping for that. Because I don't need Maegor.
Let's stick with the good old-fashioned, good down-home fix with improper use of the signet ring.
That's Ashley's favorite.
Ashley's favorite.
She said the signet ring, the broom, legitimacy.
Actually, it does not like.
Wait a minute, brooms?
God.
Okay. I think I need to go soon.
Yeah, you lost me at brooms, girl.
Look, I'm down for the first time he calls her Hermione.
That gets me every time.
Woo!
Yeah.
Every time.
No. The lips crashing and the use of the first names and listen. As for the broom thing, I like it when they're up in the air.
It's like they're on the broom. Okay.
Yeah, they're on the broom. He's not using the broom in the way.
Okay, well, you can see how that was misleading.
Sexy time on the broom, not the broom
talking
being
about
used.
the ring. So everybody was looking at improper use of broom.
A Creek and Jace fanfic? I'm into it.
Please.
We've already been on record. I'm going to post it again.
Eric's going to pull up the receipts. Here we go.
I want some ice and fire. I want some ice and fire fix. See, like, yeah. See, I already like Wolfstar.
Someone needs to write our fic.
I like the Remus and Sirius.
Someone needs to write our version of the Cregan and Jace fic in which Cregan has a drag persona named Sarah Snow.
Sarah Snow, yep.
I need
And
that.
that's-
I need that, y'all. Whoever wants to-
That was their cover.
Chambers.
I love that so much. Was that Carly
Yes,
in that live? Yeah. That was great.
it was.
Okay. This was a good question, and then I'm gonna need to get off and do some work. But Nessa asked, what do you all think was in Prince Nymore's letter?
Ooh, everybody always asks this question, and I really never have the answer to it.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't like the answer that I have yet, but I'm willing to listen to anything because it's one of those. It's definitely something I don't even think George knows what it is.
Right. That's one of those, like, I'm gonna leave this open and come back to it, but will I?
Well, yeah.
Well, will he have to? Maybe when there's a new show.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the theories that are out there about what's in the letter make more sense than anything I've come up with on my own.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The one that I see is just that maybe, just that they have Rainey's. I mean, I don't know that it's not gonna end well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, obviously, it's her, and I mean, I don't fucking know, honestly. That's a big old.
I know in the
What is it? He
Maybe
gets
they have
he
her
gets the
remains.
letter, right?
Maybe
Aegon
they
gets the letter.
Maybe
Then he
they
goes to
have the
Dragonstone?
remains, or they have the remains of both her and Meraxes. And if
Well,
they want them back, they better stop. I don't know.
I know the fanfic. They wrote in there somebody mentioning a story about essentially she was tortured, and that's what was in the letter. Essentially, is that
That's a bummer.
exactly? It's not great, but it's I mean, I don't know what else it could be other than like promises of like future generations being tortured or something. I don't know. Like,
I don't know. Does it come back? Does it somehow? I mean, because you've got. Let's see. I'm trying to think like how it might pull back to the main series. And you know everything that's going on, like the Targaryens that we have, and how they're going to interact with the Martells that we have, and if there will be any. I don't know. Any tells? Probably not. I don't think we'll ever know.
I think that's just another one of those things, one of those mysteries that you have in there that we've been talking about is, you know, is there ever going to be any clarification on it, or are they just going to remain mysterious? It's kind of like with Arya Targaryen. I don't think we're ever going to know what really happened with her.
But I want to know. I want to know so bad. I want a whole fucking story.
I want to know so bad, but I was having a conversation forever ago. I think it was like last year that I was on a live with Kirby, and she was like, you know, maybe the horror, the truly scary part of that whole thing is that we don't know.
Yeah,
But
we'll
I
never
was like,
know.
I really want to know, though.
I would just really love a short story about what they did, her and Balerion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just a little tidbit. We want to know, like, because there's no, like, other than, like, hearsay, just, like, what is going on in Valyria. I mean, Tyrion sees it from, like, the very outskirts of the sea. Like, it's just, like, an enigma. You just, like, want to know. It's just, like...
What's in there?
Yeah, just let me in.
Let me in, but not really.
No,
I don't actually want to. Only let me in if you can let me out. Like, I want to get stuck there.
I just want a peek inside, a look, and
then close that shit. Letter from Rhaenys saying Meraxes is dead and she doesn't want to come back and be left to live in Essos. I mean, I do with the relationship, and I think this is what Nessa is speaking to, not without my true love. Like, if Rhaenys outlived Meraxes, based on what we know of the relationship that they have, like, that would do something to her. Like, I think that would rob her of, you know, of caring or wanting to do the fucking conquering of Westeros, the whole bit. Like, if my dragon died in it, I'd be like, what the fuck have I done?
Yeah, it's like with Rhaenys and Meleys years and years later.
Right.
I mean, I think that the show did the best portrayal of that death, because you see that look in Rhaenys' eyes of, okay, I'm not living without Meleys, so I'm going to die with her. I'm not even going to attempt to save my own life. If she's dead, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, like, how it's written in Rise, but, like, how did Viserys feel? I mean, there's not really even any text on how Viserys felt when Balerion died. I mean,
I don't think he felt anything, because
I don't think he felt anything.
He might have felt a little bit sad, or maybe a little miffed that the dragon was just like, nope, I don't want to do anything with you. I'm just croaking before you can.
I'd rather die.
Goodbye.
Die
in peace.
Honestly, I think Viserys was just kind of like, wow, was I really that bad? And Balerion was like, yeah, you were.
Really were.
You were. Honestly, I was not about to live in a world where you were my last rider. I'm not going out like that. I'm not going to have you embarrass me, man. I was the dragon for Maegor the Cruel. Okay? No, absolutely not. We're
I
not.
gave you one ride, and it was just terrible. I want to end my life now.
Listen, if I had to go from Maegor to Viserys, I'd have checked out too.
Bye. Do you guys think that
Maegor, at least Maegor was cool?
Do you guys think that George has a solid answer to, like, all of his mysteries? I think that some of them yes, and some of them no, because he's that gardener. I think he is really good at being like, I could plant seeds for this because this could be a really cool idea. And then he's like, oh shit, I have so many gardens. I need to cull them all, which is like where he's at with Winds of Winter.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
why it's
I think Winds of Winter. Winds of Winter is one of those things where I lean more towards the idea that if we ever do get it, it will be split up into 2 volumes just because of how large that it's going to be. There's just no way. And I think that that's just one of those things. He's got so many stories and so many gardens and so many things they have to cultivate into one thing. And that's what has him held up. That's what has him so confused. Because how are you going to make it all work?
At 75% done, he had 1,500 manuscript pages.
Like George, to be in that man's brain.
900 pages, and that's just 75%. So just imagine 100%. I think it needs to be split into 2.
And I feel terrible because it's like him talking about ripping up chapters and starting over. And I just want to say, it's okay if it's not 100% perfect. You calm down. Like, I promise you that what you're putting out is good. You don't have to rip it up. I promise you don't.
Right, like I imagine him just like ripping his hair out and like ripping up, poor guy. I do want to touch on something that Nessa said. She said George has no idea half the time. That's why he needs those racists. And like she's so right. True. Like that's why I'm like, George, hire me, replace them with me. I will help you keep track.
I promise you, we have our PhDs in Westerosi.
For real though.
Hold on. Who blocked? Like, hold on. I need to go back and catch up in the chat.
I think she means those people. I can't even think of their names, but they are, they were incredibly fucking racist about the Valarians being black in the show, and just like there's other shit too, but like that was like a huge one.
So stupid. That was so stupid.
Elio and Linda.
Of course, her name is Linda.
Yeah. The way that was done so freaking well, and how it distinguished the Targaryens from the Valarians, and you can finally separate them to where you can tell who everybody is.
Well, and it also
done.
It has implications for like the Great Empire of the Dawn, which is where all these fuckers came from. They were not white, okay? That happened over time. Like they were not white. The Gemstone Emperors were not fucking white. And so to have the Valarians, who are also Valyrian, be black, it reflects that like this was not just like a white culture. That's all it was. Like that doesn't make any sense anyway. Look at fucking Essos now and how like diverse it is.
Whitewash his books.
Well, it's also just not George. Like he has said that a lot of the Valyrian houses were black. And
obviously, like what the fuck? How is this even
I think that people need to take what they think they know about George. If that is your thinking, then throw it right out the window because that's not who he is. George can have some controversial ways of writing things. I think he could dust himself up on maybe writing better schmegual scenes because some of them, actually all of them are really gross. I think the only one where I felt like the tension was really good and I would like to hear more and get more of these 2 characters is Sir Duncan the Tall and Rohan Weber.
I knew you were going to say it.
Those are the fanfics that Ashley needs.
I really feel like that's the fanfic that I need, folks. So my fanfic writers in there, if you feel so inclined, I humbly request Sir Duncan the Tall and Rohan Weber because I feel like the tension was tensioning and that kiss. I mean, George.
Ew, Eric, you stop it.
George,
I don't.
You need to. Oh wait, what is Eric saying?
I want to take that comment out of the thread.
I never want to see it again. How dare you?
Please stop.
Oh my gosh, Nessa. Oh my God. I was just about to say that. Mine that builds the tension well for me is Asha and that guy. The
The guy.
I can't even think of his name.
When they're in where are they at?
Just like their fucking back and forth is so sexy.
It is.
She's a little bitch. I love it.
George, I know George can write good smut. He can, but he can also be really gross. And it's like Dany smelling Drogo's hair and being like, it smells like
Shmeerim.
Like, excuse you. Stop it.
No.
Why is that in there? Why is that in there? Is he like lathering his hair with it? Why?
Okay, Eric's like, okay, but
he add it
that's
to the
literally where the
shampoo?
quote comes from. Eric is saying that that disturbing quote that you left in there is actually from the Asha scene. And I'm like, well, all right, you got me there.
We just
But it's the, what is it called? I can't think of the fucking word right now when it's like flirty back and forth. What is the name for that?
here.
Banter.
Yes.
The banter is really good between
that's
them.
just the thing. Like, I feel that Rohan and Dunk have very good banter. And like, I mean, when she slaps him, he doesn't even appear to dislike it. He was just thinking, now I just want to bend her over my knee and smack her on her. Yeah. Anyway.
So he's like, okay, anyway.
I request fanfic. Please.
I'm sure there will be some popping up once the show starts.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I feel
Okay,
like George could certainly do better if he wanted to, because I've seen him do better.
Well, I mean, the thing that I'll never forgive him for is having Jorah tell Dany, you were made to be kissed well and often. Because that line goes fucking hard. She is 14, sir.
No.
14. She was not made to be kissed.
Because it's such a romantic line, and you would hope that that line would come from John, because I am such a snowstorm shipper.
Yeah,
I
same.
want John to say that. I don't want creepy, balding, icky Jorah to say it.
The audacity.
Yeah, right? Like, okay, fine. Yes, she was made to be kissed well and often by someone her own age, you creep.
I know. I honestly, I would have accepted that line more from Dario Euron as opposed to Jorah.
I mean, true. I still wouldn't have liked it, but it would have been better.
It would have been better.
Because you read it and I'm like, I want a motherfucker to say that to me. And then you're like, wait, though, this is Jorah and fucking Daenerys. Like, what is going on? Yeah, made me want to pass away. The audacity, George.
Damon, like, I read that and I was like, oh man, that sounds so good. And if a man said that to me, I would be done. But not Jorah.
I mean, yeah, okay, that's a fair point. Like, I do very much, I still think that show Jorah is inappropriate in the sense that he is in love with her and she is significantly younger. She's older than she is in the books, but she is significantly younger.
No, she's still 16.
My preference with show Jorah is he accepts that and like moves on with his life. But show Jorah or book Jorah is constantly pushing that on Dany. He's making it her fucking problem. Whereas like show Jorah was a little bit better at like, you know, he's like, that's my cross to bear. That's my fucking problem.
Also at the same time, it's the way that book Jorah doesn't want her to trust anybody. And it's not because it's out of her best interest. It's like Dany realizes it's because he wants
to be the only one.
He wants to isolate her, and it's so gross.
So as y'all know, my mom watched the show. She watched the entire thing without me, and I told her at certain parts, freaking wait for me because I would like to watch so that didn't happen. So she watched the whole thing. She said she stayed up till 7 a.m. one day to fucking finish season 8. And she said that she instantly regretted it, as you should be. But she was talking to me about Jorah because Jorah is one of her favorite characters. Her favorite character overall is Arya for obvious reasons. But she liked Jorah. And when I told her what Jorah did in the book, and she's like, oh, he is not my favorite anymore. Because it's like D&D really like pushed that and they kind of fine-tuned it to make it, you know, fit.
More palatable.
You know, that like he is devoted to her. He went and got his grayscale cured and had his skin scraped off and made his way back to her, sacrificed himself for her. So of course people are going to like Jorah, but like
and the actor is like too attractive.
Gorgeous. And that's the thing is that D&D, people should really understand who these men really were when they are making characters who are villains, who are horrible, underhanded villains. Like Jorah and Tyrion and turning Euron into essentially a freaking cartoon. And
he's like a value village sex pirate. That is what Euron is.
The whole thing with them turning characters who are awful, evil people into a joke or into good people, like making Tyrion look so much better than he truly is.
Yeah.
And
Again, too attractive.
And it's just so, it's garbage. It's garbage. And it also goes to show that they were very misogynistic.
Yep.
And they were determined to make these characters who were bad people, like Robert Baratheon. You made him into Bobby B. Like, you capitalized on to Bobby B, and you never delved into what made Robert a truly terrible person. And that goes back to that video that I made about Cersei and talking about how toxic women versus toxic men. They highlighted how awesome and cool Robert was and made Cersei look horrible.
So Slim Charles said, you know, they casted a model for Brienne, and that speaks also to misogyny, that they wouldn't commit to an unattractive female character. She needed to be attractive for the screen.
And even the insults she was dealt in the show were just lackluster. They just fell flat. Because
it's not even a fraction of the shit that's in the book.
Gwendolyn, of all people, like you can't say that show Brienne, like, any insults would even just fall with any kind of depth to it. They just couldn't commit to an ugly, quote unquote, woman.
Jasmine, oh my gosh, yes, the way they tried to ship Davos and Missandei, and the guy who
was like, fuck
Davos
no.
said, no, absolutely the hell not. I'm not doing that. That is a young girl. I'm an old man. What is wrong with you?
Also, Book Davos would never.
He would never. He would never.
How dare you?
And they missed out on the complexities of a lot of these characters. John is not some heroic character. Yes, I have called him the Aragorn of the story, but George's version of Aragorn and Tolkien's Aragorn are entirely different things, because he's trying to, I mean, I hate using the word subvert because I feel like it's very overused in the Song of Ice and Fire community, but that is exactly what George is doing here with Aragorn. He is turning it over on its head and showing you that there can be complexities to this character. It doesn't all have to be this white knight kind of characterization. And we see that happening with Jon, especially when he's put into a position of leadership that he never wanted in the first place.
Yeah.
So, and he's having to make tough decisions that Jon, wouldn't have normally made, but he's having to make them now as Lord Commander. Just like all Lord Commanders have had to do before him. It's not all going to be roses and butterflies. Sometimes he's going to have to make choices that are complex, and not everybody's going to like them. And we see that Sam does not like them, but Jon does have good intentions, even though it comes across very harsh. But that's who he's becoming, as a much harsher human being. So it just goes to show you, imagine what he's going to be like when he's resurrected.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite conversations between Sam and Maester Aemon is when Sam is like, you know, when did Jon's heart turn to stone? Because it's when he realizes that Jon made Gilly swap the babies, which, Sam, how did it take you that long to realize it? But also, you know, they have that conversation, and Aemon says, when you made him Lord Commander, like, you did this, Sam. You know, you killed the boy. Jon, and that's another thing about the show is, like, you know, kill the boy, let the man be born, like, implies agency. But the truth is that Jon becoming Lord Commander was not an act of his own agency.
No, he was forced into it. And I don't think it's just Sam. I think it was also Bloodraven who was trying to influence that. I mean, it's very obvious that Bloodraven had his hands in that, because Bloodraven may very well believe that Jon is it. So I think that people just need to look at the complexities of Jon's character and throw everything that you think that you know about Jon based on the show right out the window, because that's not Jon Snow.
No.
Jon Snow's not going to just be brutally unalived like that, having more of his agency taken away, and then having the child that he swapped to try to save both of these children, only to have Melisandre sacrifice said child to save him without coming back.
I mean, that was crazy to me in the show, is that they didn't even require a sacrifice. All of a sudden, Melisandre is just capable of the fucking kiss of life, or whatever the hell it's called. That made no fucking sense. This bitch is going on and on and on about blood magic and king's blood and resurrection and blah, blah, blah. She was trained in Ashai. They are taught in Ashai only death can pay for life. Melisandre says that fucking phrase. She is not going to try and resurrect someone without a sacrifice. It's the only way she knows how to do it. And this goes back to how Thoros of Myr is an explicit foil to Melisandre of Ashai. An explicit fucking foil. He does not take it seriously. He never has, whereas Melisandre takes it super seriously. She's so far up her own ass that she can't see daylight. And Thoros is the one who's being rewarded, you know, presumably by the Lord of Light.
Exactly. John has never in his life had agency, and that's the rule for him. I mean, yes, every single thing that happens to John in his life is not a choice that's his own. He didn't choose to die. He's not going to choose to be resurrected. He's not going to choose for a little child to be unalive to save him, especially considering it's the child that he intended to save.
Dude, the way that people push back on my saying that will be the sacrifice is the baby is astounding to me for so many reasons. Number one, why the fuck would Shireen be sacrificed for some bastard fucking Lord Commander of the Night's Watch? That would never, ever fucking happen. Ever. And it undermines it has to be Stannis who burns Shireen. That's the fucking
George
point.
has said it was Stannis. He didn't say, George, people need to pay attention to his wording and his verbiage. He said it was always my intention for Stannis to burn Shireen. He didn't say, I was thinking about it, or it's a possibility, or maybe I'll do it. It was always my intention for Stannis to burn Shireen.
If Stannis is the false Azor Ahai, which he very fucking clearly is, he needs his false Nisa Nisa. Yeah. In an act of desperation, he has to make some great fucking sacrifice and then realize that he's a flop.
Hey, I have to go. My mom's here.
I gotta go too. I need to work.
Yeah. So
love you all, guys.
Remember to like and subscribe. And we are also, like, the episode will be posted to YouTube as well. So go follow us on The Wicked Witches of Westeros on TikTok and YouTube. And we will see you guys next Monday.
Bye guys.